Okay, welcome back. And for this lesson, we are going to be talking about the strategy for the motivational purpose questions. Now, before we get into that, I want to make one correction from the last video that we did about the summary for this question type. Now, I mentioned in that video that pertaining to the names that the official organization chose for these question types, that these two question types are not really related, except for the name here that they gave them. That's not exactly true. One thing I do want to mention, they are similar in the sense that the main idea question, or what they call the gist content question, that is the main idea of the lecture. What they call the gist purpose and what I call the motivational purpose, that is the main idea of the conversation. So with this particular question type, this is kind of like the main idea for the conversations. Now, it's possible that they might give you a motivational purpose question with a lecture, but it's not probable. The reason I mentioned that is because, as I mentioned in the last video, there's always some sort of an anomaly. In other words, if I were to say they will never do this, then they do that, then I would be wrong, and I don't want to give you information which is false. So it's possible that they'll give you a motivational purpose question on a lecture, but it's highly unlikely. So let's go over it with this one. So as far as this one, the first thing that you have to do is listen for phrases like, I was wondering if you could help me with, or I need help with, or I was hoping that, or maybe even phrases like, what can I do for you today? Because these conversations will always be with someone who is like a faculty member or a professor, and the student will always be coming to that person with some sort of a problem. Now, maybe they don't realize that there is a problem right away. They come to them with some idea, and then they discover that there is some sort of a problem. So usually, this is one of the tricks about this, is they might state in the very beginning, I came today to sign up for the something or other course. Well, that sounds like it's the motivational purpose, but then they find out that there is some sort of a problem. And then the whole conversation becomes about that problem. So that would usually be the actual answer. So one of the tricks that they do is they give you something that was directly stated, but it's not actually the answer. But you still have to listen for phrases like that, because they will usually be followed with some information which is the actual answer. Now, when you compare that information in your notes to the answer choices when you get the question, you might find that the information that you wrote down in your notes is different than the answer choice. That's because the answer choice for this one will almost always be paraphrased from the actual thing that was stated in the listening file. So you have to use some of your skills that you developed in the reading section about paraphrasing answers to discover the answer here. Or you might have to make a deduction based upon all of the information that was stated and sort of put it together to realize what the main subject is. So you still listen for those phrases. The actual answer, which will be given for this question type, is almost always within the first 30 seconds to 1 minute of the actual listening file. Just like the main idea is almost always stated within the first 30 seconds to minute of the main idea question types in the lectures, this answer will almost always be in the first 30 seconds to a minute of the conversation. Now, you can think about it this way. Anytime you have a conversation with a person who is maybe not a friend or a family member, but someone you need to speak with, like in this situation, a faculty member or a professor, you usually state the reason why you're talking to them. That way they have a good idea of what you're talking about. So listen for that main idea in the first 30 seconds to a minute. You still obviously need to take notes on the rest of the listening file, because you will be getting more than just one question type after the listening file. But this is the first one that you will get after the conversation. So you just listen for, what the main purpose is, or you might have to summarize the whole idea of the question type. Just compare what you wrote with your notes. Compare those to the answer choices. You eliminate the obviously wrong answers. The obviously wrong answers for this one will be answers that are factually incorrect, or they're answers that are details but they're not the purpose. Or it will be answers that somehow obscure the information. And then you just choose the best answer or the only answer that is left and move on. And that's really it for the strategy for this one. Take good notes on the listening file. Remember that the answer for this question will be in the very beginning of the audio file. This will always be the first question after the audio file if it's a conversation. And then just use the skills that you've already learned. And that's pretty much it. So we will see you in the next lesson.